Clyburn,
Here.
Winter,
Present.
Morrison,
Here.
Walker Myers,
Here.
Hamilton,
Present.
Marshawn,
Here.
Rakeem, Furlow,
Here.
Marks,
Present.
Wingate,
Present.
Smith. Smith.
Here.
A quorum has been established. We'll now have divine guidance from Order Ward 13.
Thank you, Madam President. We all go through these trying times, and I saw something that I thought that would be worthwhile saying. It says, "Don't quit. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you are trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have a sigh. When care is passing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is queer with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns, and as many of our failures turn about, when we might have won had he stuck it out. Don't give up, though the pace seems slow. You may succeed with another blow. Often the goal is nearer than it seems to faint and faltering men. Often the struggler has given up when we might have captured the victor's cup. And he learned too late when the night slipped down how close he was to the golden crown. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt. And you never can tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems so far. So stick to the fight when your heart is hit. It's when things seem worse that you do not quit. Author is unknown. Thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to welcome Mayor Ella Kerr to our chambers to deliver the State of the City address. Welcome, Mayor.
Thank you, President Walker Myers. It's quite a different environment from a year ago. President Walker Myers, City Town Clerk Michael Smart, honorable members of the Board of Alders, good evening. To my fellow New Haven residents, visitors, all those who have a deep connection to this inimitable city, and all those tuned in virtually, good evening. Before I get started, I did want to take a moment to remember all those we have lost over the past year to COVID-19 and all those we have lost to gun violence. It's been a long year since I gave the State of the City speech in the Aldermanic Chambers last February. Our administration here at City Hall has been working nonstop, responding to the pandemic and many other challenges that we have faced, all while implementing many plans to help those most vulnerable and challenged residents. I think we all can be proud to say that we in New Haven together have responded to the pandemic, emphasizing swift action, following the science, collaborating with each other, and focusing on those most in need. Together with all of you and many leaders throughout our community, our response to COVID-19 has been strong. Early on, our administration worked hard to become one of the first cities in Connecticut to offer COVID-19 testing for all residents, free of cost, which included walk-up testing, many neighborhood pop-ups, and a focus on access for vulnerable populations. And today we are one of the first municipalities in the state to implement a robust vaccination plan to save lives across the city. Our health department has vaccinated over 4,000 residents and started neighborhood pop-up vaccination sites that will save lives. Thank you to our healthcare workers. school nurses, and Medical Reserve Corps volunteers for your tireless work over the past year, helping New Haven lead during this health crisis. We work to close the digital divide in New Haven by providing tablets, laptops, computers, free Wi-Fi access, and hotspots to all New Haven public school students in need. Today, we are opening up schools in person, learning for those students that need structure of an in-person school environment to significantly improve their focus on education, and for those hardworking parents that simply cannot make ends meet when struggling to manage childcare and a job. Thank you to the teachers and school staff for their tireless effort to make remote learning and in-person learning successful. We worked hard to put food on the table for those families that could not by distributing hundreds of thousands of meals through New Haven Public Schools and many, many other food distribution events. I'd like to also take a moment now to thank those countless community organizations and leaders throughout the city who helped organize efforts to distribute food, masks, hand sanitizer, and other items that many families are struggling to acquire. And I wanted to mention a few, although there are so many: Alder Honda Smith, Alder Carmen Rodriguez, Kim Harris, and the New Hallville Community Management Team, KIEDC, the New Haven NAACP, the Jewish Federation, and many, many more. This was one of my favorite parts over the past year, is joining with Alders and other community members to give out food for the community. Our Economic Development Administration worked hard early on during the COVID-19 crisis to promote mask wearing with the Mask Up campaign, and to set up Together New Haven with all of our city's partner organizations, helping our small business owners struggling to stay open, serve their customers, and bring their employees back to work. With our specific focus on Black and Latinx business owners, we have 23 businesses in the pipeline for funding out of the $1.5 million program approved by the Board of Alders in partnership with HEDCO, the Community Foundation, and the Amor Proper Foundation. Thank you to all of our partners in this regard. You will see the Eat New Haven posters across the city as we market the amazing variety of restaurants across the city, even if you're not dining in person. Take it home or have it delivered all winter long. Help support our restaurants. And while many of our businesses are under economic stress like they have never seen before, we are looking ahead to a strong economic bounce back. Market confidence in New Haven has not wavered because of COVID-19. In fact, we have welcomed 40 new businesses to the Elm City this past year. Entrepreneurs such as Tisha Hudson from Edible Couture, a graduate of our small business program. She took a risk and bet on New Haven. You can try all her great treats right behind City Hall. Please buy local and support New Haven treasures. Our administration's dedication to safety has not wavered because of COVID-19. And I want to take some time now to talk about safety because it means so many things to so many people. It is the fundamental expectation that we all should have, that we feel safe in our home, in our community. And the reality is that today, that's just not the case for everyone. Safety means that families with young children deserve to live without fear of their child being poisoned by lead. In the past year, our health department has increased the number of lead inspectors from 4 to 6, implemented new inspection processes, including digitizing data and streamlining inspections, and established a lead advisory committee to help keep New Haven's most vulnerable children safe. Despite being limited by the impacts of the pandemic, our health department conducted 117 lead inspections and another 233 re-inspections, and so far has overseen lead abatements for 26 housing units. Safety means safe streets. In addition to the 22 speed humps and traffic calming infrastructure built this year, our city engineer and traffic, transportation, and parking department are scheduling neighborhood meetings as we roll out our major corridors project. This project will improve the safety of many city-owned traffic arteries that have historically posed a safety threat to our pedestrians, drivers, and cyclists. And thanks to our partnership with the Board of Alders and state legislative partners, we implemented increased fines and other consequences for those who wish to ride through New Haven streets illegally on ATVs and dirt bikes. And also safety means safety from pollution. We as a community fought back against corporate interests and stopped the expansion of a trash facility in the annex. We stood up together, the entire state delegation, the entire Board of Alders, residents, neighborhood leaders, and nonprofit partners for environmental justice, and we were successful. But I want to take a moment in particular to talk about violence. Let's be clear, most people in our city do not feel safe from violence, especially in our Black and Latinx communities. Like many cities at this moment, we are struggling with an increase in violent crime. This challenge has an urgency like none other, because we are losing our young people prematurely, and the waves of impact go beyond the loss of that one individual. We're working urgently to address the violence, and our plan focuses both on the short term and the long term. First, we hold violent offenders accountable. Our police department has worked hard to make arrests and take guns off the street. This time last year, we had seized 8 guns and made 6 arrests. This year, we have seized 14 guns and made 14 arrests. As for major felonies, there was a homicide arrest in January of 2021 and 3 arrests for non-fatal shootings. There were also 140 felony arrests in January. And while we struggle to fund even more positions in our police force, we are working hard to rebuild and fill the vacancies that currently exist. Last week, we graduated 16 new officers who are already out on the beat. And the Civil Service Board just certified a list of 167 candidates with whom we will begin the hiring process as we prepare to seat our next police class. But our goal is not to arrest people. Beyond policing itself, we are implementing policies to address the violence in the short term and the long term. We're working with state probation and parole. After they took a long hiatus because of COVID, they are now doing custom visits to returning citizens suspected of being involved in the violence. Starting with next week, our team will be doing 10 custom visits per week. We will be conducting a gun buyback event in the coming weeks to take more guns off the street. Our Youth Connect team, previously known as USTAT, is working to engage New Haven's most at-risk young people one by one, person by person, to ensure they have the resources that they need. And last Tuesday, we hosted our first call-in in over a year, where Project Longevity, our police department, our law enforcement partners, and support staff provided options to the 17 men participating and a pathway so that they could put down the guns and receive support. This call-in was only the second call-in to happen in the country amid this pandemic. Group violence intervention has proven to work and is critical in addressing the increasing violence in our city. We're preparing another call-in in the coming months. And being safe for many in our community doesn't always mean police responding to crises. That's all too clear. This has been elevated more than ever before by the millions of people around the nation and thousands in New Haven demonstrating that Black Lives Matter. Safety is about undoing historical inequities, addressing the trauma in our communities, and undoing racism. We are responding to this call in many ways. As a city, we are working to undo racism, and I applaud the Board of Alders Health and Human Services Committee for working to define and address racism as a public health emergency. In addition to this work, I am announcing that the City of New Haven has joined the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. GARE is a national network of local governments working to achieve racial equity and advance opportunities for all. This work allows us to reach deep into our bureaucracy, to normalize the conversation and make the necessary structural changes in the way that we serve the public. And safety to many does not mean calling the police when there's a crisis. Many times, mental health and social support service is needed rather than a uniformed officer with a gun. After much planning work, our team is poised to launch the Community Crisis Response Team pilot program, where social workers and medical experts will help respond to substance use and addiction problems, mental health issues or episodes, domestic issues, or other calls for service that may not need police response. Ultimately, we cannot address violence and the many other challenges we face as a community without addressing the roots of the problem. These roots are based on the opportunities people have and people do not have. Opportunities for economic stability, for safe and affordable housing, for a good education, and for a second chance. Everyone in New Haven deserves the opportunity to thrive. This is the reason I ran for mayor and continues to be the primary focus of our administration. And while this work may take years, even decades, this is the work of our time. For this is the work that will make a true difference in our city's ultimate success. This past year, we have continued to build on the work of past leaders to do just that. Later this week, in partnership with Project More, we will launch New Haven's first one-stop reentry center. We cannot expect our returning citizens to succeed if they have no path to success. And the reentry center is designed to do just that. In New Haven, we believe everyone should not only have the opportunity to thrive, but they should also have a second chance. You'll hear more about this effort later this week, but I can tell you I'm very proud of the work that the city's reentry coordinator, Carla Sosa Lombardo, has put into this effort, and I'm confident the impact will be significant. And people cannot thrive without an opportunity for a job. This past November, we launched a construction jobs program to give our residents the training, education, and work experience they need to set them up with a lasting career in the construction trades. Thank you to all of our partners, and especially our union partners and New Haven Works, as we now move forward with placing graduates into employment and moving to the next training cohort. And of course, people cannot thrive without safe and stable housing. And this is an area where our team is working to take significant steps, both within New Haven and by advocating beyond our city. Even as we continue to grow, residents are faced with rent burden. Over 6,000 households in New Haven need housing at the deeply affordable level, in part due to income at 30% or below the median income for our area. And to be clear, New Haven already provides the vast majority of affordable housing in the region with little to no assistance from our suburban towns. Let me first acknowledge the groundswell of support for the lawsuit against the town of Woodbridge, which seeks to open up affordable housing options in one of our neighboring communities. However, that lawsuit turns out, we will still need to drive forward on dramatic change in order to deal with the affordable housing crisis. Substantial progress has been made this year. The new Affordable Housing Commission will have its first meeting in the coming weeks. Thank you to our new commissioners for stepping up and volunteering to serve. We anticipate that the state will receive over $200 million in federal funding to support tenants at risk of eviction. It is important that we all work together, identify our neighbors in need, and ensure they have the support and resources to keep housing stability. Our CASTLE program, the Coronavirus Assistance and Security Tenant Landlord Emergency Program, is working to assist homeowners and tenants falling behind on payments so that we have a strong foundation to help support those facing instability. The 16 new housing units on Judith Terrace, Thompson Street, and Winchester Avenue are finished, with new homeowners building wealth and contributing to neighborhood stability. Over the past year, our administration has worked with our local partners and the state to rehouse over 350 individuals experiencing homelessness into permanent housing. And we will continue to work with our partners to give people a chance at having a stable home environment and the support they need to get back on their feet. Looking ahead to the next 4 months, we will launch the next set of initiatives to make housing available for all. In terms of removing zoning barriers that exist right here in New Haven, we are in step with the Desegregate Connecticut approach, preparing new ordinances for inclusionary zoning, accessory dwelling units, and opening up our most restrictive zones for more density. As you know, we inspect rental units on a rolling basis for compliance with the housing code, but we do very little in terms of training and education. Just passing the inspection is not an acceptable standard. Through a new training program to be run out of LCI, landlords will be better prepared and always held accountable to the housing code. At some point, the moratoriums on tenant eviction will also expire. Nobody has an exact number of the households at risk of eviction. There's no early warning system before a notice to quit is served on a family. In the coming months, our foremost responsibility is to educate tenants on their rights, work with landlords and tenants on mediation and workouts for evictions, and then support tenants in crisis when faced with an eviction. Alders, if you are made aware of a tenant in crisis, let's connect the family to resources at Legal Aid, the Connecticut Fair Housing Center, and our case managers at LCI and the Financial Empowerment Center. I did want to take a moment to thank the Financial Empowerment Center. This year, they have assisted over 400 New Haven residents, including enrolling clients in financial counseling and helping to reduce their debt and increase their savings. I'm proud of the work the center is doing to address systemic inequality at its core by assisting people for a stable financial future. And not just in the next 4 months, but for the entire year, we must also have a commitment to build housing and encourage investment. Here are some of the projects I'm very much looking forward to. The city will take on the second phase of the Thompson-Winchester project and the George Street Historic Renovation Project, adding another 18 affordable units, 8 of which will be going to homeowners. Partners are delivering on large-scale transformational projects. The Prince Street School renovation is underway, creating 30 affordable housing units as a part of the Hill to Downtown plan. Farnham Phase 2, Westville Manor, Antilian, and the Valley Townhomes are also moving forward. Concord proposed mixed-use redevelopment of Dixwell Plaza, together with the Q House across the street and the Beulah development at Joe Great's site, will immensely elevate the quality of daily life and inspire kids of all ages to love their neighbor and stay close to home to raise their own families. I'm sure she's on mute, but I hear Alder Morrison cheering in the background. Alders residents and stakeholders listening tonight, it is vitally important to support this growth in our city and keep pushing forward at every level to create safe, quality housing for all. We have a strong plan, but we have much work ahead of us to implement this plan. People can't thrive without safe and affordable housing. Finally, our city will not thrive without adequate resources. I would be remiss if I did not talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the ivory tower in our backyard. The city's financial health is dire. In the next fiscal year, our city faces up to a $66 million deficit, and this problem will continue into future years. We cannot cut or tax our way out of this problem. Our city's at a crossroads today, and Yale University and the state of Connecticut are too. All eyes are on them. In the coming days, Governor Lamont will submit an over $40 billion biennial budget proposal to the legislature at the state level. Connecticut billionaires made many more millions over this past year, while hundreds of thousands lost their jobs. Based on data collected by Forbes, 7 of Connecticut's billionaires last year increased their wealth by $1.7 billion. These 7 individuals made enough money to close New Haven's budget gap for decades. There's something deeply wrong with this. The governor has indicated he does not want to raise taxes on them, but at what cost? That forces our cities to raise taxes on residents who simply cannot afford it. Governor, let's be crystal clear. If you don't raise taxes on the wealthiest in our state, you will be raising taxes on the poor and working class. Governor Lamont, we are looking to you to add funding in your budget to support the tiered pilot proposal in front of the legislature. The proposal has bipartisan support, has the support of mayors of major cities and first select persons of small towns. It is a practical proposal, it is progressive, and costs only 0.5% of the state's annual budget. Think about that, 0.5%. Governor Lamont, we're looking to you. And in our backyard is Yale University. Yale spends over $4 billion each year to serve 12,000 students, whereas the city of New Haven spends under $6 million to serve 130,000 residents. Something is just not right when Yale spends over $300,000 per student and we spend only $4,600 per resident. Yale, we are looking to you to dramatically increase your voluntary payment because it's the right thing to do, because it's good for the city and Yale, and because it's high time. And don't misinterpret this. We want the state and Yale and New Haven to thrive together, but we can only thrive together if we all thrive. If we all thrive. All eyes are on you. Last year in my State of the City, I talked about the precarious position our city was in. Without a doubt, throughout this past year, we have shown time and again, despite the challenges that we face, that we are resilient, that we will persevere. So this year, I would sum up the state of our city as very hopeful. While we face many challenges, the opportunities in front of us are incredible. We have more to go, but the end of the pandemic is in our sights. With it will come a significant economic rebound. Our financial challenges are daunting, but our partners give me cautious optimism to have faith that we will not only overcome the challenges, but we will vanquish them. And our community gets stronger every day. We in New Haven has shown just what we can accomplish when we work together. Together we have led in a time of crisis. and we will continue to lead the way to ensure that New Haven is a place where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Madam President, Board of Alders, and community members, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Mayor. Alders, we will take a 5-minute recess before we start rest of our meeting.
Whenever you are ready, Madam President.
Oh. I will now call the meeting back to order. We'll have the city town clerk take the roll.
Saban,
Here.
Douglas,
Here, still here.
Hurt,
Present.
Rodriguez, Singh,
Here.
Rodriguez,
Here.
Roth,
Here.
Pupo, Decker,
Here.
Festa,
Here.
Haywood, Antunes,
Here.
Santana,
Here.
Acosta, Santiago,
Here.
Mr. Haywood.
Here.
Crespo,
Presente.
Ortiz,
Present.
DeCola,
Present.
Edwards,
Here.
Clyburn,
Here.
Winter,
Present.
Morrison,
Present.
Walker Myers,
Here.
Hamilton,
Present.
Marchand,
Here.
Raheem,
Present.
Furlow, Marks,
Present.
Wingate,
Present.
Smith.
I don't
Here.
know who that is. Who's that?
I would like to note for the record that order from Ward 4 and Ward 27 has joined us. It's the majority leader.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President, and good evening. I move approval of the journal of the January, nope. I move approval of the journal of the, yes, that's right, January 19th, 2021 Board of Alders meeting.
Second.
The item has been moved in second. Are there any corrections to the journal? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item passed, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. Under unanimous consent, I ask you see on item number 1, resolution of the New Haven Board of Alders strongly support the recommendations of the CDC and the executive orders of the Governor, Ned Lamont, for the safety of our communities and not condoning the activities of any New Haven city official, elected official, or city employee that violates the mandates, executive orders, and laws established to reduce the spread of COVID-19.
Is there anyone going to deny unanimous consent? Seeing none, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the item as revised out of caucus. Thank you.
Second.
The item has been moved in second. Discussion. I call on order from Ward 27.
Thank you, Madam President. Our city has been valiant in its efforts to reduce the spread of COVID-19 among our residents. And this resolution not only emphasizes the importance of continuing this work, but it also reinforces our commitment to remain steadfast in following the recommendations of the CDC and all mandates issued by the executive order of our governor, Ned Lamont. It also encourages all city officials and employees to continue to do the same. Thank you, Madam President.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item passed, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. Continuing under unanimous consent, I ask you see on item number 2, resolution of the New Haven Board of Alders authorizing the mayor of the city of New Haven to apply for and accept a subcontract grant award to provide home visitation services from Family Center Services of Connecticut from January 1, 2021 to June 30, 2021.
Is there anyone going to deny unanimous consent? And none, Ms. Majority Leader.
I move the item.
Second.
The item has been moved and second. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item passed. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. Under unanimous consent, I ask you see on items listed 3 and 4. 3, order of the New Haven Board of Alders concerning real property taxes of Deborah Stanley on motor vehicle tax accounts 519-750, 885-347, and 903-295. Item 4, order the New Haven Board of Alders concerning real property taxes of Vicente Ayala on motor vehicle tax accounts 807-101 and 821-973.
Is there anyone going to deny unanimous consent? Seeing none, Ms. Majority Leader.
I move these items.
Second.
The items have been moved and second. Discussion. I call on order from Ward 16.
Thank you, Madam President. Both of these items would, as a precedence has been established, we do not have to listen to these items. They're going to come directly to the board because they're willing to pay the taxes in full if we're able to assist them with waiving the interest. If we are able to approve both of these items, we will receive a tax amount of $1,650, so $1,650. And I urge the support of this board in order to approve both of these UC items. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item passed. Ms. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam.
Aye.
Thank you, Madam President. I note communications 5 through 13. And under first readings, I note first readings 14 through 18. Bringing us to second readings. Under second readings, I move item 19, A through C, City Services and Environmental Policy favorable. A, resolution of the New Haven Board of Alders authorizing the mayor of the city of New Haven to accept funding of approximately $100,000 from the state of Connecticut and to execute encroachment permits, maintenance agreements, and other paperwork for future public artwork and underpasses in New Haven in accordance with the 2019 DOT Public Art Policy. B, resolution of the New Haven Board of Alders authorizing the mayor of the city of New Haven to execute encroachment permits, maintenance agreements, and other paperwork for 2 existing public murals on State Department of Transportation underpasses along State Street in accordance with the 2019 DOT Public Art Policy. C, order the New Haven Board of Alders authorizing the mayor of the city of New Haven to execute encroachment permits, maintenance agreements, and other paperwork for a public mural in the I-91 underpass at the intersection of State Street and Bradley Street in accordance with the 2019 DOT Public Art Policy.
Second.
The items have been moved and second. Discussion. I call on order from Ward 10.
Thank you, Madam President. The City Services and Environmental Policy Committee met on Thursday, January 7th, and we would like to favorably recommend these items, A, B, and C, respectfully. The first item, item A, allows the mayor to accept funding of approximately $100,000 from the state to fund public artwork for highway underpasses in New Haven. Items B and C were approved by this board last April. They were resubmitted to include the indemnification language between the state and the city. Working together, these three items help New Haven beautify underpasses with artwork and maintain them as well. I urge my colleagues to vote favorably to support these items. Thank you, Madam President.
I will now call on order from Ward 7.
Thank you, Madam President. I also support each of these items and encourage my colleagues to. Residents and businesses in my ward have been working for a couple of years on the mural project for the highway underpass at Bradley and State Streets. They brainstormed about a wonderful design and raised money for the project, which will beautify the underpass and importantly, better connect downtown with East Rock. What has taken so long is a very bureaucratic set of hoops to get approval since the mural will be on state property. I'm grateful to the city and the state for recognizing that this has been a difficult process and bringing the item before us tonight, which will enable neighborhoods throughout the city to paint similar murals on state underpasses without these one-off bureaucratic hurdles. I also appreciate that the state will provide about $100,000 in funding to help these projects citywide. So again, I support these items, which will let folks in my ward finally move forward on the State and Bradley project and help people citywide with similar projects. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Sorry.
Any abstentions? The item passed, Ms. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I move item number 20, finance favorable. Ordinance amendment to the appropriating ordinance number 1, authorizing budget transfer number 202-21-1, transferring funds from the expenditure reserve account in the amount of $1,900,000 and $1 million from the fire suppression account to the fire suppression overtime account.
Second.
Item has been moved in second. Discussion. I call on order from Ward 24.
Thank you, Madam President. This request was heard at the January 11th Finance Committee meeting. This transfer is to transfer funds to the fire department's overtime account to cover necessary expenditures. The Finance Committee heard this request and voted in favor of approving this transfer request, and we're asking colleagues to approve the transfer as well. Thank you, Madam President.
Any further discussion? I call on order from Ward 7.
Thank you, Madam President. While I'm grateful for the hard work of our firefighters and recognize the amount budgeted for overtime is too low, I don't support the part of the request that seeks to transfer $1.9 million from the expenditure reserves account to the fire overtime budget. This request doesn't raise the same concerns as requests to transfer money from debt service. The $4 million expenditure reserve budget line is money we put in this year's budget to pay for unanticipated COVID-19 related and perhaps other expenses. However, I think it's premature to approve the transfer of almost half of the $4 million to cover fire overtime expenses when we don't know what other unexpected costs we'll have to deal with because of COVID-19 over the next 5 months. Additionally, at the hearing, Mr. Gormany said that some of the $3.1 million we received from the federal government through the state in December may be able to go towards this fire overtime. Why would we therefore obligate $1.9 million now? And with changes in Washington, D.C., perhaps there will be additional federal funds over the next few months. While I appreciate the discussion at the hearing about doing a course correct mid-year, why not do this with debt service or police overtime? It's almost certain, unfortunately, that come June 30th, we'll have several expenditure lines over budget. Finally, I worry about approving this transfer harms the effort to control fire overtime. At the hearing, Chief Alston said the department recently brought on a new management and policy analyst to help with financial oversight. He also said they were about to start using software to track overtime and vacations by specification, classification, and skill set. An idea that was raised with us almost a year ago as a step we should take they should take to control overtime costs. And a new assistant chief overseeing the budget was appointed last week. Rather than just accept that the fire department will need 2.9 million more in overtime, we should keep the pressure on the department to use the tools and resources it has told us it is starting to use to see if it is able to better control these costs. Thank you.
I will now call on order from Ward 22.
Neighbor. Thank you, Madam President. I stand before you in support of this transfer. It is quite obvious that the cost of safety can cost. And our chief, he comes back every year and he asked for this transfer because they don't have the right amount of people or new people to be able to really bring that budget down right at this second in order to continue to keep our residents safe. This transfer is important. It is very, very important. We're talking about lives. We're talking about people out at the times that we're asleep, saving lives of our residents. So I ask every one of our my colleagues, please support this transfer because it's needed. Our residents need it. Our residents need to know that when they call 911, someone will be there. So thank you, Madam President.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is an ordinance amendment. I'll have the city town clerk take a roll.
Saban,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Hurt,
Yes.
Rodriguez, Singh,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Roth,
No.
Kupo,
Yes.
Decker,
Yes.
Vesta,
Yes.
Haywood,
Yes.
Antunes,
Yes.
Santana,
Yes.
Acosta, Santiago,
Yes.
Crespo,
Yes.
Ortiz,
Yes.
DeCola,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Clyburn,
Yes.
Winter,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Walker Myers,
Yes.
Hamilton, Marchand,
Yes.
Rakim,
Yes.
Furlow,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Wingate,
Yes.
Smith.
Is there anyone who haven't voted wishing to vote? Is there anyone who have voted wishing to change the vote? Seeing none, the ayes pass, Ms. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I move item 21, Joint Finance Public Safety Committee, order to read and file the order of the New Haven Board of Alders calling for a public hearing to discuss the staffing, heavy rescue, and vacation schedule agreement recently reached between the City of New Haven Firefighters Union.
Second.
The item has been moved in second. Discussion. I call on order from Ward 24. Okay, I will call on order from Ward 12.
I apologize, you couldn't hear me.
Okay, Ward 24 then.
Thank you, Madam President. As I started to say, hopefully you can hear me now. The item was heard and we're asking that it be read and filed. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay. Order from Ward 12, would you like to elaborate or no?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. President.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of giving this item read and file, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? The item is read and filed. And before a motion to adjourn is appropriate, I will now take points of personal privilege. Are there any points of personal privilege? I call on order from Board 22.
Thank you, Madam President. On Thursday, February 11th, 2020 at 6 p.m., everyone, the city, the Board of Alders, everyone is invited to participate in a community conversation around the Yale University hiring initiative. This conversation is presented by myself, Alder Morrison, for Ward 22 Dixwell, along with Alder Winter of Ward 21. The purpose of the conversation is for residents to meet the team and to also receive information around how to apply to jobs with Yale University. Our great partner, New Haven Works, will also be a part of this conversation. And so this meeting again will happen on Thursday, February 11th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. Meeting number 915-4752-1264. Thank you, Madam President. I hope all of you attend.
I will now call on order from Ward 8.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for Andrew Dow. He was a colleague of mine in Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies at Yale, and he was also the Associate Director of the Office of LGBTQ Resources at Yale. Just an incredibly loving, wonderful person. Andrew died over the weekend. It is with an incredibly heavy heart that I talk about this. I know there may be folks on this call who knew him, and certainly he was loved throughout New Haven and the Yale community. So I'd appreciate just a moment of silence. Thank you.
I would now call on colleague from Ward 9.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to invite colleagues and the public to a town hall meeting on Tuesday, Tuesday, February 9th, a week from today at 6 p.m. It's on the topic of increasing minority contracting. We have had a working group over the past several months with myself and President Pro Tem Morrison from the board, as well as community stakeholders and academic experts to explore the topic of how do we increase minority contractor hiring in New Haven. And we have a town hall meeting to summarize our work on the 9th. Again, it's at 6 p.m. It's on Zoom, and the meeting ID number is 853-9459-4705. And the title is Now That We Know Better, How Can We Do Better? So I encourage colleagues and the public to come take part. Thank you, President.
I will now call on colleague from Ward 30.
Madam President, I would like for our honorable colleagues to have a moment of silence for our beloved Alberta Gibbs, who have lost her husband. So if we can just have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Thank you.
I will now call on colleague from Ward 3.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm asking all my colleagues in the Board of Alders just to keep my family in your prayers, to actually to those who I lost two family members on Thursday. I'm just asking all my colleagues to just keep my family lifted. Thank you.
Amen.
We sure will. And I will now call on colleague from Ward 20. You're on
Madam
mute.
Chair, I was gonna, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I was gonna also ask for a moment of prayer for Alberta Gibbs, one of our great legislative aides that have supported us, but our alder from Ward 30 have already done that.
Are there any more points of personal privilege? Seeing none, a motion to adjourn is appropriate.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Everybody be safe. Good
Be
night.
safe.
Good
Good night.
We are adjourned. Good night.
Good night.
Right.